Welcome back to Highwheel Woodworks. I'm Tim Eggers. Today we're going to talk about the fundamentals of woodworking, and one of the first steps in the woodworking process that you need to do is when you've got your rough sawed lumber, you need to join it up to clean up a face and an edge to get those usable. We're starting out with, like I said, rough sawed lumber, fresh from a mill. It hasn't been processed down at all. We've got the face of the board, we've got the edge of the board, we've got the end of the board down here. And how we choose what face we're going to joint first is we always look for the grain pattern on the board. And in this particular one, I've got it highlighted here so you can see that the grain is running this way. So the inside of the tree is here, the outside of the tree is here. And almost invariably, when you have rough sawed lumber like that, you're going to get a cup in the board, which is going to be opposite of the grain pattern. So what we'll do is we've got a cup in here. We can look down this edge and we can see that it's curved in a little bit. And this side of the board represents the outside of the tree. So we're always going to have the outside of that tree facing down onto the deck of our machine. So that cup that we've got in there, we're going to take that out and get that nice and flat on that face. The way the jointer works is we've got an in-feed table here that's adjustable. We've got an out-feed table here that is fixed. And the difference between those two is what we're going to take off from the face of our board to get it nice and flat. We take multiple light passes to get it where we want it to be. We don't want to hog it out. It's hard on us, hard on the equipment, hard on the board. So we're going to take just a light pass. We are always going to use push pads. There's no excuse ever not to use push pads when you're jointing the face of a board. And the reason for that is if something happens to the board and it gets kicked back off the machine, this is your bridge between the in-feed and out-feed, and it protects you and guards you from going down into that hamburger grinder, which is called the knives on it. So always push pads. No excuse not to. Second thing that's super critical is the guard that is spring-loaded. It pivots out of your way when you're running it through. If you run across a joiner that doesn't have a guard on it, don't use it under any circumstances. It's just not safe. There's too much exposed area there with that cutter to go without that guard over it. So we're going to get back here, and if you'll notice, my left hand is facing up, right hand is facing down. That gets me in a body position that I want to be in, which is back behind it. I've got my shoulder down through my forearm. My angle of energy is about 45 degrees. It's going down into the piece. That energy is being deflected by the fence and by the deck, and it's pushing my material downstream into the cut. My backhand, my right hand here, is always facing down. And if I look at my forearm as the indicator of the direction of my energy, it's always going to be parallel to the fence. So I'm standing back here behind it. All my energy is going downstream to the cut that I want to make. A common mistake that people make is they'll turn this left hand over, and the body mechanics that causes, it gets them into this position here. So now my energy is going that way, my energy is going that way, and there's none of it going downstream. It makes the board extremely hard to push through the jointer and all. The first couple passes are going to be real light. You're going to have very little friction on the machine from the wood. It's going to be easy to put through. If you're off here, you don't have your energy going in the right way. It makes it a real challenge. So get back here behind it. The first pad is always going to go on the front of the board and on the side nearest us. And we're looking to do that as a reflexive action habit that we're going to create. I always want that to be in the same place every single time. So if my board's got a twist in it, if I'm going from one side to the other, you're building the twist up rather than taking it out. Always on the inside at the front. The back one is always going to be basically in the middle. And I'm simply going to walk it through like this. And notice what my feet are doing. I'm crab walking it through like this. Once my upper body is in that fixed position, I'm going to keep it in that fixed position. Only after I've gone through and the guard is closed up do I take my hands off the pads, pick up my board, and move it back. Reason for that is if my hands are here and here, they cannot be there. Pick it up, bring it back through, get in that fixed position, and crab walk it through again. You'll notice that I put that witness marks on the bottom of our board here all the way across. So that way I know where I've been and where I'm going. And all I'm looking to get is a fine strip on one side, fine strip on the other side. As long as I can get two strips there that are nice and flat and in that single plane, that's all I need to do. I don't need to go 100% of the board. So here we go here. I'm going to turn it on, run it through a few times to show you what the results are. we've passed our board through just 2 times. And it normally doesn't take much more than 2 or 3. You'll notice I've got about 9% of this nice and flat. That's enough for us to go to our planer and use this reference surface for our planer to get our other side straight. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to look down this edge here and here, and I want to see that I've got a little bit of a hook in this one, and it's sticking out just a touch on this side. So what I want to do is I want to run that hump up again. So I'm going to take our fresh flat surface here. I'm going to put that up against the fence. Now this time I want my hands essentially in the same position, in that I want my left hand facing up, right hand facing down. I don't have much contact with the deck on the machine, so I have very little friction. Translation, it's not going to take a whole lot of work to push it through. So I want to position my fingers such that they're below the top of the fence, because I don't want to push it over like this. And they've obviously got to be above the guard. So I'm going to set them here on the front of my board, and notice my hand is wide open and it's kind of pushing that into my fence. So that's what's going to keep us nice and straight. My backhand is going to be essentially in that same position, and then my forearm is parallel with the fence and my board, and I'm holding it up here. I don't have to grip it real hard, because if I grip it, I'm implying pressure on that thumb. It wants to go like this. I don't want that to happen. I want a nice 90-degree angle between my face and my edge. So I'm just going to roll my hand up on top of it like this. I'm going to push it through. Again, if something goes bad anywhere in the process and the board kicks out, my left hand is going to be diving into the fence, because that's the direction of my energy. And my right hand back here is going to fall on top of the fence, so it keeps it out of the blades as well. So we're going to run that a couple times. And right there, we've got a nice clean edge. On our edge, we've got to go 100%. We've got to have that clean all the way down. And as long as we're good here with flat edges on both sides, we're real good. So we don't have to get 100% there. But that's all we need to do with the joiner to get this board ready for the next step in the process, which is going to be the surface planer. A couple of things that you never ever do on a jointer. One of them is this. Never ever run that through with bare hands like that. That board can kick back if it gets caught, and what it'll do is it'll whip your hand in like this. I had a friend of mine lose a knuckle because of that very same thing. It came back and his hand drew under like that, and it took that knuckle clean off of his hand. So never ever do this. Something else we're never going to do, we're never going to do this one. Cross grain, that'll pick that board up and it'll throw it over there somewhere end over end like a cheap football. So we're never going to do that. If our board was short, we would never go across the grain this way either. The grain in the board runs this way. Those long cutters in there running that same direction can get in there and throw it out. So never do that. Those are the never do's on the jointer. So what we've done there is we've jointed a face and an edge and got it ready to go for the next step in the process. We're going to step over to the surface planer here and finish this board up.